Hi, guys. It's Sven from Badass Counseling. So we created the Badass Counseling group on Facebook, and it grew to well over 45,000 members. And we kept getting asked by folks for a support group, a growth group that's more intimate, gives more access to me, Sven, if possible. So the Badass Counseling team got together, and they created Community Plus. For a monthly fee that isn't cheap, you get direct access to me 2 times a month where you can submit your questions directly. Monthly drawings for a small group counseling session with me. Monthly drawings for one-on-one counseling sessions with me. Priority Pass access to go to the front of the waiting list for ongoing counseling with me. Priority Pass access to be considered to be counseled by me on the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Direct access to my top 2 selling video courses, Healing the Soul and Unleashing Your Greatness. Interviews with people who've had success in their soul journey, some well-known and some everyday folks like you and me. And a fantastic opportunity to meet and get to know other men and women who take their healing and growth seriously and who do the work. And a social community feed where folks share their challenges, their struggles, and their triumph. And so much more. So go now to badasscounseling.com. Click on the Community Plus sign-up page for premium content and direct access to me and to like-minded people who are committed to healing, growth, and creating a community of support and happiness.
From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Well, hello, fine humans. It's great to have you here. This is the Badass Counseling Show podcast, broadcasting from, as you heard it from the English lady at the beginning of the show, from the New York City area, wherever you are tuning in from, whether it is Barbados or Belgium, Belize, or any other point starting with B or whatever alphabet letter you like. It's great to have you here. We enjoy our listeners from all around the world. You send us questions, you come on the show, and it's because of you that we're here. We're just here to help, folks. This is a lightning round Q&A episode. These air on Sundays, but they're available all throughout the week. Our Thursday episodes are counseling episodes. And there is one person that does infinitely more work than anybody else on this team, and it sure as shit ain't me. It's the fella sitting next to me. I've got Casey over in the booth, but this guy next to me, he is producing these shows, and anybody who's ever done a podcast before knows that what costs the big money and what keeps people from doing podcasts long term is the sheer cost of production, post-production, editing, mastering, et cetera, et cetera. And we got a guy right here, used to be senior vice president of Paramount Pictures. He was a senior executive at Spike TV. He's been in radio, he's been in TV, and now he's retired, and he does it for one reason, and that is, what's the reason? No, I'm teasing. He does it because he gives a shit about people, and he has this giant heart, and he knows that this helps folks and so forth. This guy's name is Rob the Rocket. Rob, what say ye?
Thank you, Sven. That's very, very gracious. I appreciate that.
It's true.
And I'm doing it because it is fulfilling, gives me a sense of purpose, and I recommend to everybody facing retirement, know that it's a huge, huge adjustment. And if you have a sense of purpose, it's much easier.
And so you're saying this gives you a bit of that?
Absolutely. Oh, a lot of that.
Why is that?
It's my purpose to help you and to help the folks that are listening. And I really appreciate that opportunity.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. All right. Well, let's dive right in. First question I've got is right here on Facebook. And I've got a question from Tracy Haynes, who says, how can you get someone to believe what you are telling him when he keeps accusing you of things you have not done? You can't. You won't. You won't. When you haven't done something, this is one of these situations, you guys. Have you ever been in a situation where it's you, or but where you yourself, where I'm in a situation, maybe it's work, maybe that's nothing to do with a love relationship, where you're in an interaction with someone, and you know that you're judging this person not on something that they've done, or you're fearing this person not on something that they've done to hurt you, but you're judging them or you're fearing them based on something that somebody else did to you. You know, it's like the person, oh, I got my ex-boyfriend, he cheated on me and shit. And so all men are cheaters. Or maybe it's not that bad, but you know what? When my wife left me, she really hurt me and she hurt me all those years and she didn't cheat or anything, but she was just really hurtful and rude and it hurt. And so now I'm sort of afraid when I'm dating. And so I'm really sensitive to any last thing a woman says. All right. So even though this woman sitting in front of you that you're dating, let's say her name is Becky. You're sitting in front of Becky and she's perfectly lovely. And she's done nothing. She's been just a peach to the waiter. And, you're at dinner and she's just great. You're already treating her with fear and trepidation. Why? Because it's being conditioned by someone in the past. It has nothing to do with Becky. But you don't trust Becky fully, even though Becky's given you no reason. Tracy, that's what's happening here. You ask the question, how can you get someone to believe what you're telling him when he keeps accusing you of things that you have not done? You're being judged, not on you, but on his past shit, that you have no control over what he thinks of that past shit. And that past shit hurt him, and you're being judged on his fears. And you can't make him go to therapy, and you're like, how do I convince him I'm good? How do I convince him? It has nothing to do with you. It's who he believes you are based on his past experiences. And so fundamentally, if you want the really ugly truth, you're fucked. You have to walk away from this relationship or put the ultimatum to him and just say, listen, I'm sick of your shit. And either this changes as in now or I got to go, and then you got to mean it. And don't threaten to walk away if you're not actually walking away. But why the fuck would you want to be, ultimately, the real question is to you though, why the fuck would you want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't believe your word? No, I'm serious. Why? Why would you want to start a relationship? And you're not saying you're starting the relationship, but why would you even want to start a relationship or stay in a relationship with someone who doesn't believe you? Why? Is someone so fucking fantastic? Are you so fucking needy that you're even willing to take someone who doesn't trust you? What have you got if you've got a relationship that has no trust? No. You've got to just face up to it, talk to this person and say, listen, this changes now or I got to go because this is bullshit. I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm treated with such disrespect. All right, next question. Jonathan Tyler says over on TikTok, my dad threw me down the stairs violently when I was 4. Now I'm angry. You don't state a question, Jonathan, and quite frankly, I don't blame you. But it would be more helpful if you did. But I'm going to say this. Good. I'm glad your anger is coming out. You don't state how old you are, Jonathan. And in a way, it doesn't really matter. Because the beginning of your healing is your beginning to allow. You're not finding anything outside of you. It's already inside of you. That anger, that hate, that rage at your father for doing that to a 4-year-old, violently throwing you down the stairs when you were 4. And you don't ever have to confront the actual living, breathing person that is your father in order to heal. What you do have to confront is the father inside of you. You have to begin to pull up all the feelings and look at that father inside of you. You got to pull up all those feelings and begin to journal and talk it out, but especially journal it out, write him letters that you don't send him, unleashing all of your venom, all of your anger, all of your rage. But then you have to go down further into all of the sadness, all of the hurt, all of the fear that you lived in. But also you have to go even further down into what you were really longing for as a child, wanting his love, wanting that connection, and the brokenheartedness that you likely grew up in because you had a father that you were terrified of. I mean, I'm sorry, you don't get thrown down the stairs violently and then not be scared of that person. And the question I would want to ask you is, did he undergo some massive transformation of character to the best of your knowledge after that event when you were 4 years old? Because if he did not, Jonathan, that implies that the character of the person that throws a 4-year-old, 4 years old, and throwing this sweet, innocent child, that someone would throw that child down a set of stairs. And then if he didn't undergo some massive transformation of character, he still had throughout your childhood the character of a person who would violently throw a child down a set of stairs. which means he likely did far more in your life than just throw you down a set of stairs. Even if he never did anything that violent again, likely he had a temper. He was a hothead. He potentially had a hot tongue, and he was mean. And so you likely have far more anger inside of you, and hurt and longing and loneliness and fear towards your father that has to come out, that is expands well beyond 4 years old and potentially right up until today. Next question. KC, you're going to like this one. This is KC's affliction. Trada on TikTok says, why do I fall in love with every guest you have? I know. KC is just like, oh my God, Sven, I just want to take this guest home. I so want to take this guest home. Oh, I want to be nice to him. And it's like, she takes in every stray puppy, so to speak, and we all fall in love with our clients. And you got to understand, this is the nature of my work. I tell my clients, I fall in love with every single one of my clients, old or young, male or female, non-binary, whatever. I fall in love with the spirit of who they are. That if you can focus on the good in someone, but even more importantly than that, once you start drilling down into who a person really is, you win their trust enough that they'll open up and allow you to see who they really are. And they know that you give a shit, that even when you're being tough with them, I'm not being tough with them. I'm going in to beat the living fuck out of those dragons inside of them that aren't them. So I'm not there to damage them. I'm there to protect them. And they just sort of open up like a flower. I fall in love with every single one of my clients, every single guest on the show, every single one of them. Male or female, old or young, doesn't matter. The spirit of who they are. But Rob, Trada doesn't just say, there's actually a second sentence. Trada doesn't just say, why do I fall in love with every guest you have? Trada's second sentence is, however, Rob has my heart.
All right, then. Right
after that, elderly woman behind says, Rob the Rocket with a fire symbol.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
When you're open and you're vulnerable, it certainly makes you more lovable.
Yeah, well, and you are very lovable, Rob.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thank you.
Patty asks the question, how do you handle your kids moving away? You're excited for them, but I feel a little abandoned. Sure, and that's very normal, Patty. How do you handle it? You welcome up all of those feelings of abandonment, of loneliness, maybe even anger. Whether or not there's supposedly a good reason for it, you feel what you feel. All of those feelings, welcome them up. Write your children letters that you don't send. Say the stuff that you would never even say to their face, but you want to say it. I'm excited for you. I love you so much, but I'm sad you left, and I'm mad at you for leaving. Don't you love me? I feel like I'm not loved. And you know what? And you betrayed me. You were supposed to stay with me forever. Whatever you feel, there's no right or wrong. You're not saying it to them. You're getting all your natural feelings out. What are your natural feelings? The more you get those out, whether anyone else would ever see them as right or wrong, the more you get them out, the more you're going to begin to have peace. Next question.
Over on YouTube, my friend.
Yep.
Amanda says, my son is 6 months old. My mother texted with my dad about taking my son to my grandfather against my will and against my knowledge. I feel betrayed. How do I navigate this? My grandfather is the source of my childhood trauma.
My mother texted my husband or my father?
No, a mother texted Amanda's father.
So the mother and father presumably aren't married. She didn't just say it to him when they were in the kitchen?
Well, apparently that's right.
You can understand why I was confused.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, bottom line, mom and dad are in fucking cahoots.
Yep.
To take my kid
Yep.
up to my grandfather, so my kid's great-grandfather, and my grandfather is the source of my trauma.
Yep.
And so what's the question?
How do I navigate this? I feel betrayed.
The part I'm wondering about the story is, why did you tell us about them texting? Nothing wrong with it. I'm just curious. It's an odd detail to include. Why not just say, mom and dad want to take my kid?
I guess to indicate they are not together.
Presumably. And they're in cahoots. And okay, so anyway, I would also want to know, who do you feel betrayed by, mom or by dad? If you get a chance, I'm really curious, who do you feel betrayed by?
Yeah, she says, mom and dad know I don't want my son near my grandfather.
Oh, shit. Okay. So mom and dad, presumably divorced, are communicating.
Yes,
Mom
divorced.
wants,
Yes, she
yes.
says.
Okay. And mom is talking to your dad, even though they're divorced. Why is she going to him? Is she trying to get him to snatch the baby or somehow work his way in with you? To ask her who she feels betrayed by.
Got it. I feel betrayed by both. I secretly found this out by snooping in my mom's phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's how you found out. So she's plotting to basically take your kid to the fucking grandfather. Wow. And they know you don't want it. And so you're asking, how do I navigate this? In a way, you're asking the wrong question. The real question should be, how do I really feel about this? What am I doing to get my feelings out? And what navigate, fucking shut that shit down. They are going against your will when you don't feel safe for your child is safe with your grandfather, presumably. You shut that shit down. And if you have to cut him out of your life, you have to cut him out of your life. Why? Because it's your child. You're responsible for the safety of your child. And you have to call the shots and you have to shut that shit down like right now. Your mom is fundamentally saying, I don't respect you. I don't give a shit if she said it. Let's make it happen anyway. She doesn't fear you. She doesn't fear your wrath, so to speak. She doesn't give a shit. She's going to do what she wants. And you really think your mom just started doing that this year? No, she's been treating you that way the whole fucking time. Now she's still doing it. Your child is her plaything. She wants to raise your child her way. You okay with that? Next question. Doggone Spoiled 2013 says, how do I change my son's behavior? He's 12 and already manipulates and gaslights me. Say no. Say no. I'm willing to bet that underneath him manipulating and gaslighting you, and I could be totally wrong on this, I'm willing to bet that you fear your son. More specifically, you fear your son not liking you. You fear your son being angry with you. I'm curious how he got so much power in the first place. How he got the power to manipulate you. How he got the power to quote unquote gaslight you and why you care if he's gaslighting you. You have the power. Just say, no, son, this is the way it is. And this is how it's going to be. This is one of those times where it's like, I'm the parent. I'm not always a big fan of playing that card, really, the I'm the parent card. But how does your son have so much power to manipulate you and gaslight you? To me, it screams fear. You're terrified of him not liking you. You're terrified of him being mad at you. And at age 12, in all likelihood, and if it's that bad at age 12, that means this has been building for quite some time, long before he had any sort of physical power. So I can't imagine finds its roots in he has physical power over you. And if he does, yeah, this shit has to be nipped in the bud. And specifically, you have to begin to use your power. You have to begin to not be afraid of your son disliking you. You have to begin to not be afraid of your son. But I guarantee, I am willing to bet, and I could be wrong, I'm willing to bet there's a severe amount of fear involved here. Okay, next question. Here's a good one. I'm just going to take this one real quick. Angela Bowley, psychic portrait artist. There's a shout out just by reading the title alone. How much of an influence Carl Jung has on your work? It would be indirectly. I didn't read a lot of him specifically. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist per se in the field of medicine, in the field of psychology. I'm a soul counselor. I've read some of his work, but I've read it indirectly through a lot of Joseph Campbell, James Hillman, who ran the Jung Institute in Switzerland and so forth. But at the very least, we're both preachers' kids. And his work was fundamentally an attempt, he flat out states this, his work was an attempt to find a different way to make sense of his dad's theology. And he chose medicine specifically at the very beginning of psychology. And that's why he's one of the fathers of psychology, is because he created this different language to express, to fundamentally co-opt the stories, the beliefs, the systems, and the healing powers that religion and spirituality had been doing for thousands and thousands of years. So I indirectly, yes, I think I'm probably very influenced by him, but not directly. I haven't like taken his ideas directly. He does have a few great quotes. I fucking steal those fuckers all day and all night. All right. We'll be right back after a short break.
My best friend made me listen to some podcast, said it had blown her away. So we listened to a lightning round of the Badass Counseling Show together. All I can say is, wow. First podcast I had ever listened to. Now it's my addiction. If you haven't done it yet, you need to subscribe to the Badass Counseling Show.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
All right, we are back with the Badass Counseling Show. Lightning round, taking people's questions. We are live right now on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Facebook. I've got so many good questions right in front of me right now, and I'm going to try to nail these two real quick. Amanda over on Facebook says, my 12 years old, wants to attend a church that is openly against LGBTQ marriage. A church against LGBTQ marriage. That's just so hard to find. I'm kidding. As a former clergyman, that's not that hard to find. But okay, 12-year-old wants to attend church that is openly against LGBTQ marriage because her friend attends. Both she and my oldest are part of the LGBTQ community. Wait a minute. Well, she, who? The friend or your 12-year-old? Are part of the LGBT community. I've explained why I won't let her attend, but I'm not sure if I'm right in my stance. Yeah, this is a tricky little one. In the interest of full disclosure, I have a gay child, openly gay, married child. My daughter is lesbian, has a wife, and they're actually giving birth to my grandsons. I am the father of grandsons, twins. And I love her partner very much. And I love my daughter. She is the apple of my eye. My son is the grapefruit. Anyway, that's a tricky one. Do you have the right to tell a person what church they can and can't go to? It's like the kid who grows up in a vegetarian home and says, Ma, I want a hamburger. It's just like, ooh, tough one, right? And I've explained why I won't let her attend. And it really doesn't matter what my views or anyone else's views are. This is your child, and you get to parent your child your way. Let me tell you something. Similar thing. A very dear friend of mine had a daughter that he raised who, the different influences in this daughter's life. When she was like 13 or 14, she thought tattoos were cool. And the dad didn't. He had nothing against him. He wasn't like fucking anal retentive. He just said, yeah, but you're not getting one. And she's like, but I just want one. And he says, well, maybe later, kick that can down the road. But he was very argumentative about it with her. And it grew. It's almost as if the more he said no, the greater resistance he created by saying no, the more her want for it increased. You see where I'm going here? Such that by the time she was 16 or 15, whatever, she went off and got her own because they didn't live together. There was a divorce. And by the time she's 17, she's got, a good portion of her body covered. Now she's in her 20s and she's, a tattoo artist and a wonderful person, one of my favorite people in the whole world. And, largely her body is covered in tattoos, not entirely. And I've always wondered, in fact, I've conversed with him about it and I've conversed with her about it in different conversations. How much do you think you drove her to that by resisting it? And this is something you need to think about here in telling your 12-year-old child they can't be part of. Is it possible you might actually be increasing the desire to be a part of it, which means you might also unintentionally be increasing the connection to, attraction to, or just openness to what is being sold at that church. Sometimes the soft sell works better than the hard sell. Am I advocating you letting her go? No, I just know this. I know it's true of me even when I was an adult. Hell, it's even true of me with regard to as a fucking old man. I go through phases. And there's the possibility that if no resistance is given to this, your child might just pass through it as a phase. That the people she loves and is closest to in life are opposed to it. But you know what? My parents never rammed it down my throat, and so I sort of grew out of it. Is it possible that the reason she's going is because her friend makes her feel loved, and this community makes her feel loved? So what she's getting there is actually filling a void. Even though they have views that you disagree with, it's filling a void. So then you got to ask the question, what's the void being created by? Now, being 12 years old and wanting to connect with a friend is precisely what you should be doing at 12 years old. That desire to differentiate from family and individuate, to use the Jungian term, right? But that desire is somewhat normal. But I'm not saying you're wrong in this. This is one of those tricky ones. But are you demonizing it as well? And I mean, because it's one of those that could go either way. But what you really need to have a sit down and talk with your daughter about is get her own views. What if you were to sit down and ask her, what do you believe? What do you feel about LGBTQ marriage and so forth? Talk to her and ask her, do you feel like this is a permanent belief or just one you're sort of trying on? Whatever it is, because maybe she says, I just like going for the people and I'm, in the connection and worshiping God. And I don't have a stance on LGBTQ marriage, or I am strongly opposed, or I am strongly in favor. But have you talked with her about it? Because obviously what's driving your decision is fear and desire to mold your daughter into what you want her to be. But then there's this other side of it. What if your daughter is not who you want her to be in all the aspects you want her to be in? And this is a really tricky one as a parent. How much do we let our children be who they are, even when it's not something we agree with? So I'm not falling on either side of this equation. I'm simply empathizing with you and saying it is a very hard equation. But I always advocate above all else to fall back to what my mother said. Children want to be heard, not fixed. Are you listening to your daughter? Are you listening? Have you sat down and just let her talk and let her talk and let her talk and say, help me understand more, and not try to fix her, not try to bend her ideas to be like you, but to truly accept her for where she is at? And you know what? There is nothing more intoxicating in life than someone who hears you and sees you and accepts you. And it could be that's what she's getting at that church. And maybe she doesn't feel like she's getting enough of it from you, or maybe she is, but it wouldn't hurt to have these conversations with her if you haven't already. Now, that was a very long explanation. I appreciate everyone going with me through it, but I just think that was such a fascinating question. Rob, any thoughts on that?
I'm just glad my house of worship has an LGBTQ Sabbath every once in a while and flies the pride flag. You can make your own decision, good, bad, but it's comforting to me.
I like it.
Got a good question from Carl here.
Carl has a question. Lay it on me, Carl.
Carl says, am I doing something wrong? Since reading your book and doing the exercises, my depression has gotten worse.
No, you're doing it right. That's the point. You have to understand that that's phase one. And I didn't do an adequate job of explaining this in the book. One of the things this is the exact reason, Carl, I so love that you asked this question. This is such a great question. Carl's fundamentally saying, hey, is there something wrong? I read your book, doing the exercises, and I just feel more depressed than when I started. What the fuck kind of shit-ass book you writing, man? You didn't say all that. That was implied, or I inferred it. Whatever. Point is, what you're doing in this work of healing the soul, and what you're really doing in any therapy or most therapy is you're unlocking the vault in which has been stuffed your pain, your fears, and your bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself. Now, most therapists aren't aware that they're going after beliefs. I come from the world of beliefs. All right. Theology, clergy. I'm former clergyman, spirituality. And I'm not talking about your beliefs on God. I'm talking about what you were taught to believe about yourself and about life, etc., but especially self. And so when you go down into that vault, when you finally have the courage, when the pain of life gets so sucky, so shitty, that you finally say, fuck, I got to heal this shit, and you go down into the vault and you start pulling out those files, which is what my books, but especially Carl's referring to the one, There's a Hole in My Love Cup.
Hey, Sven, I'm sorry. It's Kari.
Kari. Sorry.
The I looked like an L to me.
Sorry,
I apologize.
Kari. Sorry, Kari. When you go down inside and when you do the work in There's a Hole in My Love Cup, you're going down inside that vault and you're beginning to bring it up and bring it out. And the purpose of the exercise and the purpose of the book is two-phase. One, it's to help you go down and begin to identify it, name it. Naming the beast is half the problem. Identify what's going on inside of you, what those core beliefs are, the origins of them, to begin to bring them up, and what the implications are if I choose to heal, what the implications are of seeing them, and who did this, and how this was done. That's the heavy part. Phase two is the point of egress, the point of exit, getting those trains moving out of the station, so to speak, letting them into the station, getting them out of the station. And so what Kari is saying is, hey man, I went down into the fucking vault, brought up all this fucking shit, and now it's fucking, I feel fucking depressed. This is what happens, and this is the point at which some point, beginning, middle, or end of this whole heaviness and feeling depressed, this is why people quit therapy. This is why people resist therapy, or when you're in session, they're like, I don't want to go any further, or I don't need therapy, or whatever, or I don't need soul counseling. I don't need to talk to, anybody about what's going on inside of me. It's because they don't want to touch this shit precisely for what you're going through. It's so overwhelming. It makes it worse. I'm fine. I'm skating along fine. I don't need to touch that shit. But it's a two-step process, Kari. It's bringing it up, welcoming all those feelings, and beginning the work of flushing them out. And you're saying, well, I did all the fucking exercises in your book. I assume you did them all in writing. Doing them in your head does nothing because it's keeping it in. You're not getting it out. But if you're still depressed after doing the exercises, it means one thing. You didn't go deep enough. There is something deeper, Kari. There are some truths, there are some events, there are some memories that have emotional charges attached to it. There are things, and likely there's a whopper that you don't want to touch. There's always that when somebody does this, it's just, I see it a million times if I've seen it once. And when somebody is doing the work, or I've been doing the work forever, it doesn't heal, I'm still in it. It's because there's something deeper. You don't want to go deeper. And usually the deeper, it comes in the form of, what is it that triggers you? What is it that a person you don't want to be around? What is a particular memory you hate thinking about, you don't even want to touch? There's always something that you're afraid of, that you're avoiding, particular types of situations that make you extraordinarily uncomfortable. There's something, and that thing is the X marks the spot on the pirate map. That's exactly where you need to start digging, because I guarantee there's deeper shit there. So now what you got to do then is go back into that book, or just begin raw right from where you are. If you know, and there's a good chance you already know what the fuck I'm talking about. You already know what that deeper thing is. It's a good chance that, or go cycle back through that book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and start going deeper into those questions. And all within the framework of the question, might there be a deeper truth here that I am avoiding? And if so, what is it? I'm going to take just one or two more questions here. All right. Dilbert says, biggest problem is trying to find a decent therapist. You're not wrong. Even people in the therapy field concede that. And Dilbert, that's why I've created all my resources. We literally, Rob, how many episodes have we made of this podcast?
340, 50, something like that.
We have 340 episodes of this podcast. It's all free. Half of those, 170 of those, are lightning rounds, question and answers, where you can get questions answered, but you have all of these past episodes with all of these past questions that people have asked. Shit that other people are wrestling with. My high school wrestling coach used to say, we learn by watching, we learn by listening. All right? Well, it's the same way, but we also have half of them that are counseling episodes. People going through the most hard and difficult and stuff that you are wrestling with. Stuff that, oh, that's similar to me, or that's not similar to me. And so we learn from that. All of these are tools. I wrote this book for the cost of like basically fucking a ham sandwich, or fucking McDonald's is like $20 nowadays. This book's like, I don't know, $19, $20, whatever. You can get the audio book for fucking, paperback, it's 19, whatever. It's all on the website, badasscounseling.com. I've created all these tools to enable you to do this shit yourself. I'm a huge believer in self-help. I had to pull myself out of a 12-year suicidal depression for that exact reason, Dilbert. I couldn't find a therapist that could pull me out. So I had to do it myself. And that was 25 years ago, whatever. I've been counseling people for 30. And the truth is, I absolutely believe that with the right tools, you can do it. And that's what we've tried to create. And we'll come on the show if I can write into leave a 200-word paragraph of what you're struggling with, and then a one sentence of why you want to be on the show. And our producers are constantly going through those. We get lots of them, but people are on the show all the time. You get free fucking counseling if you'd like. We're committed to helping folks do this shit for free. So send it to production@badasscounseling.com. One paragraph of what you're struggling with, 200 words or less. And then just one sentence on why you want to come on the show, considering all you've been through or are struggling with. All right, we're going to take about one more question here, and then we're going to call it a night. Nicole says, Sven, I appreciate you doing these rapid-fire questions. Thanks, Nicole. I really appreciate that. We appreciate that. Trying to do what we can here. Oh, I got a follow-up. This isn't going to be the question. Amanda follows up on the LGBTQ community. She says, I just don't want her to ever hate me for supporting a community that doesn't accept her. That's the root of my fear. So the 12-year-old child is LGBTQ like her older sister or is in favor of it. And LGBTQ marriage, this church preaches against LGBTQ marriage. You don't want her going to it, but she wants to go anyway. And you say, I don't want her to ever hate me for supporting a community that doesn't accept her. So she is LGBTQ at 12, and you don't want her to go be a part of a community. Well, yeah, okay, I get that. And furthermore, it would be really quite an experience for her to be among a group of people that, does she not know that they reject her and her people being able to marry? Does she not know that? Anyway, got to move on. Blair asked the question, do you have any tips on the belief I'm only good enough to abuse? Yeah, I do have some tips on that. Tips that you're only good enough to abuse. First of all, where you need to start is, how does that belief feel? You should be writing down all these questions, by the way, and this will go up on the podcast. So if you're not getting them all written down now, this podcast will post in a few weeks and you can go back through it now. But tips on breaking the belief I'm only good enough to abuse. You need to be journaling on, who taught me this? When was it taught to me? How old was I? Do I truly believe that child, I'm going to randomly choose an age 7. Let's say you were taught that at 7. You were first abused when you were 7. Do you really believe that a 7-year-old deserves to be abused? And if you do believe that, can you name 5 other 7-year-olds that you believe deserve to be abused? Now, I'm willing to bet the answer to that is no. And so you're saying then that you are fundamentally the only 7-year-old in the history of humanity that deserved to be abused, only good enough to be abused. Do you believe that? Do you truly believe that 7-year-old or 5-year-old or 11-year-old that you were was only good enough to be abused? Do you truly believe that child that a child deserved that? Do you truly believe that? Now, I'm willing to bet your answer is no. Thus, what you believe now, that you're only good enough to abuse, is a lie, that even you don't believe it at the core of your being, but it was so pounded into you that it sort of contradicts what you believe about children. That means you were taught a lie then, you're taught a lie now, but that doesn't make it go away. That doesn't make the whole belief go away. But you have to go into these questions. Where was I taught this? Who taught this to me? How did it feel? What did I really want? What was the messaging I really wanted? What do you feel towards the person who taught you this? More importantly, who allowed this to be taught to you? What do you feel towards the person who allowed this to be taught? See, now we're getting into the realm of implications. It's not just that I was taught it, but what do I think of that person? What do I think of that? Of that person back then? What do I presently think of that person back then? what you have to do is you have to begin to go into all of this. Blair, I'm guessing you probably haven't read the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. I would strongly recommend that you start there, because that's going to take you down into all of that shit, that fundamentally a child was taught to believe that their worth, the only worth they have, is to be basically someone else's shit stick, to be abused and pushed around and hurt. No child is that. None. Zip. Zero. So you were taught a lie. Somewhere down deep inside of you, even you know it's a lie. Do you want to know how I know that? I know it because you're still alive. And if you truly believed that, you wouldn't be. You're alive. That means somewhere in you, that divine spark still burns. And it may be small and it may be quiet, but it still burns. And so the task isn't to cultivate, listen to me closely, guys. The goal is not to cultivate the belief that I am good enough. No. The goal is to go inside and begin to extract all of the messages that say otherwise, and to begin to identify the people who taught me otherwise. And you don't ever have to confront that living, breathing person. What you do have to confront is that person from your past, in your past. And you have to stand up for that child and that child's goodness, but it only begins by beginning to name and extract those messages that are inside of you. I strongly recommend that you read the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. All right, folks, that is all we have time for today. There's just been so many great questions here, Rob. I wish we could stay here all night.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, some really good ones. Yeah, you too. All right. Any final words, thoughts, any regs, any bones?
Matter of fact, yes, there was a feature article in today's paper, actually.
Yes.
And it's about the current trend in self-help. And the headline of this article, Sven, reads, "Is today's self-help teaching everyone to be a jerk?" And the subhead is, "Draw boundaries, protect your peace, worry less about pleasing others. The prevailing and best-selling wisdom of the day encourages an inward turn." How about that?
How about that?
I'm interested in your take.
I'm not interested in anybody being a jerk for the sake of being a jerk.
All right, then.
But if you got to be tough to honor yourself, if there are people around you who don't honor you and are kind to you and are respectful for you, why the fuck would you allow them in your life or allow them to treat you that way? You have a right to protect your boundaries. And what the reason I do teach this, Robin, I love that you brought this up. The reason I do teach this is because it forces people who are on the receiving end of that being rejected or boundaried or pushed back, is it forces them to change. And maybe if it doesn't change in this generation, it changes in the next one. It's beginning a shift towards changing. Now, unfortunately, it's probably beginning a bit of a shift of hypersensitivity as well, but part of being in human interaction is we're bumping elbows and bruising ribs, and so we have to learn to thicken our skin a little bit. But yeah, it's forcing people to begin to be kinder. I think that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And the article talks about Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
What does it say? Because I'm a big believer in that book.
Came out in the 1930s, and that's all about being empathetic and sympathetic to others around you and complimenting them,
right,
which is always a good thing too. But you also have to protect yourself.
That's right. That's right. And in the end, we are all, if you choose to play on a team, you're still playing on a team, which means any team, whether it's a family or a team or a corporate environment or work, you're not always going to get your way, because now you're choosing to be on a team, which means there's multiple needs. And we have to learn to get along, which means there has to be contrition and there has to be talking things out and forgiveness and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And that book came out in the middle of the Depression, when it was hard to get a job and when finances were even worse than now. So it was much needed advice. And
it's probably in its 400th printing. And I love that book so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to know, as long as you brought up one little anecdote from that book, one of the things that Carnegie, he's talking about the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I've bought that book for so many people, my kids, niece and nephews. One of the things that he says is, I ran into a woman at the grocery store, and she's a mutual friend of a friend of mine. And I stood and I talked to her for 45 minutes. And in that And after that conversation, she went to our mutual friend and said, "Oh my God, Dale is such a wonderful conversationalist. He is just so friendly and warm and just such a great conversationalist." At the end of the story, he says, after saying that, he says, "In that 45-minute conversation, I'll bet I said all of 3 sentences." In other words, her perception of him being a great conversationalist and being a warm and friendly man was the fact that he let her talk.
Yeah.
He showed interest in her. Ask people questions and take interest in them, listen to them, and they'll love you for it.
Yeah, everybody wants to be heard.
Amen to that, sugar tits. All right, that's all we got here, folks. So wherever you're tuning in from, it's been great having you here, whether from Spokane or anywhere else. Great to have you here. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.